Welcome to the Awaken the Matriarch podcast, a show devoted to helping women reclaim their power, share their gifts, and live in alignment with their true nature. I'm your host, Melissa Collarette, lifestyle designer, transformational coach, author, and proud mama. I am so excited about today's episode. I'm excited about every episode, but especially today because Mother's Day is just around the corner. And I have decided to kick things off with an episode devoted specifically to the aspiring mama, to the woman who is feeling called to expressing motherhood in a certain way, potentially having children of her own, or looking to look at her vision from a different perspective and might be needing guidance on her path. When I first launched the podcast, I asked my audience if they might have any topics or questions that they wanted me to tackle. And that opportunity is still open for you today. So if there's any topics or questions you might have, send them to me at info@awakenthematriarch.com or send me a DM on Instagram, and I will directly send you the episode once it's recorded. And today's episode is inspired by one of the questions I received from a woman who is at a crossroads on her journey to becoming the mom that she is meant to be. And I take this question to heart because I've been there, and I wrote a book for the aspiring mother, and I created a course for aspiring moms to feel guided and supported to step onto their path and honor their truth of their inner knowing. I invite you to set a sacred space for yourself to listen or watch to the episode so that you can really take in the medicine that's going to come through. Sure, I have some key points I want to tap into today. However, I've also did a little grounding work and welcome divine guidance to flow through me. And I know that even though I'm answering this question specifically to the woman who sent it in, I know that it will speak to many of you on your journey. And I can't wait to hear your feedback. And I'm honored to be your guide today because I know how important tackling this question of like, what's happening with my motherhood journey, or how do I find my way to being the mom I want to be? I know how much weight there can be to that. So my hope is that this brings some lightness and reconnects you to your truth. So let's get right in it, shall we? Let's do it. So here's what I received from Megan. I really, really want to be a mom, like so fucking bad. And I don't know what happened, but one day I just woke up and I was 35. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, I never ever felt pressure in my 20s or 30s, or even when I was in a relationship, to feel like I needed to dial that in or make that happen in the near future. So I just let it go and let it kind of happen. And it didn't happen. Now I'm kind of feeling a lot of anxiety and pressure to meet my person and make it all work and make it all happen. I think it's important to just be with somebody. First, meet somebody and then just be with them. And then, it's so shitty when it feels so rushed. I'm at a phase in my life where I'm like, okay, do I like let that go a little bit and still be open to the fact that I might meet somebody and I might have my own children? Or what kind of process is it to show up as a stepmom? It's just hard to wrap my head around the process of being like, okay, maybe I'm just going to be the wife or stepmom, or maybe biological children isn't in the cards for me. I don't know if that's kind of a downer episode. I don't know. That's just what I'm grappling with right now. Trying to be open to that experience and what that means. It's overwhelming sometimes. How do you cope with those emotions? How do you stay positive when you're over 35? Megan, thank you so much for sending that honest and raw request to me. I know that this is something that a lot of women will resonate with, even if their details might be a little bit different than yours. So first and foremost, thank you. And how you're feeling is so okay. I want to start super gently here. Hence why I encourage you to listen or watch this episode by setting a really loving, motherly environment for yourself. Sure, perhaps you're listening while you're driving to work or walking your dog, and that might feel really nourishing for you. You don't have to go light 10 candles and burn incense to create a motherly energy around you. You can just make a decision to wake that energy up inside of you and create a loving cocoon, a loving womb for you to be nurtured through this conversation. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the first part of in doing that is to acknowledge how you're feeling without making yourself wrong. And I am here to tell you that by the end of this conversation, you are going to feel a lot more at ease and hopefully have a new perspective of what your journey to becoming a mom might look like, also equipped to take next steps, and also connected to what your heart and womb truly desire. Now, Mother's Day is right around the corner, and I know that that can bring up a lot. You know, for some, they might not want to like dive into the Mother's Day theme because they are feeling like, well, I'm not a mom. I don't really want to be in this space right now because it's too triggering. I feel you if that's how you're feeling. And my invitation is that we co create a loving portal for you to connect to your true desire and align your mind, heart, and womb to that. Let's use the energy of Mother's Day and this theme of spring, which is very much around like procreation and birthing and renewal. Let's use that to your advantage instead of pushing it away. So that's my first invitation. Now, there are three key elements to your question that I want us to address. One, this idea that maybe becoming a biological mom isn't in the cards for you, although maybe it is. How to stay positive about motherhood when you're single at 35, and how do you show up as a stepmother in the event that that's something you want to open yourself up for. I'm going to talk a lot more about all these little details throughout. Now let's slow down. I mentioned, validate your feelings, create a space, and let's open up the portal. Now let's take 3 deep breaths. And I'm not even kidding. Okay. 3 deep breaths. And for like bonus energy, I invite you to bring one hand on your heart and the other one on your womb space. Okay. And then go at your own rhythm. I will guide a rhythm, but if that doesn't flow with yours, that's fine. Okay. I just for the sake of the flow of our conversation here, you can close your eyes unless you're driving or walking, of course. This is just an opportunity to reset a little bit. Take a deep breath in. Hold the breath for a moment. See if you can fill up a little bit more. And then as you exhale, sigh it out if that feels good. For the next 2 breaths, I invite you to turn the corners of your lips up a little bit and wake up joy through your smile. Inhale again. Hold the breath. Expand a little bit more. Feel your belly expand. And sigh it out. Let it all go. One more time. Big smile. Inhale. Hold the breath. Expand a little bit more. And sigh it out. Let your shoulders drop. Allow yourself to relax. And I'll just get quiet for a moment. And if you're in a place where you can't close your eyes, just feel your body. Hmm. It's so important to slow down. And this might go against every fiber in your anxious driven being right now to want to slow down when you're feeling rushed and running out of time because you're 35. Sure, there is a timeline on our biology as women. However, time is a construct that we have created. So there's like different elements to time that I go more deeply into in my book, Aspiring Mama, as well as the Aspiring Mama course. But I just want to drop that in the space right now that yes, you want to be responsible for your biology, and you also want to tap into the power of creating the energy of time that you want to be stepping into. You already mentioned like it's shitty when things feel rushed. Great. Let's move away from that. Let's tune into a natural rhythm that flows with you because that's how Mother Nature works. One of my favorite quotes is from Lao Tzu. It says, "Nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished." And my notion of time has completely changed since having my daughter because at a time where I felt least productive, I was actually being the most productive in my life. And I didn't have to make shit happen. Like limbs were literally being grown in my body while I was having a smoothie bowl and then later on puking it on the side of the road. And it was such an interesting shift in my relationship to time, but also productivity, because I was really opening up a portal to connecting to my feminine wisdom. And this is a portal I'll invite you to step into later on in this conversation today. But I was shifting from a more masculine way of getting shit done to one that was more feminine driven, which is more about being a space for things to come through us without forcing and without pushing. And this will probably be the biggest opportunity for you on your journey. I know you're someone who can make things happen, set a goal and just do the thing. And sure, there's space for those kind of goals in our lives. Like it's fun to get things done. When I talk about feminine and masculine energy, like that lives inside of us, whether you're a man or woman or identify with another gender or no gender at all. Okay. These are just different energies that, we flow through each and every day. And when it comes to your journey to becoming a mom, especially if you identify as a woman, it's really important for you to tap into your feminine way of being. Because the only thing that's going to happen if you're wanting to have children biologically is for you to have some damn good sex and allow the sperm to find its way to your egg. And your egg will choose the right sperm for the baby. Like you don't even have to manage that. Like that's going to happen. Like your job will be to choose the right person and allow him to come into your world. So I just want to mention that this isn't about making it all happen. You're going to need to break up with that, or at least be mindful when that desire to be like, I got to do this, comes through. And I say this with so much love because I am a person who likes to get things done and can be very strong in my masculine energy and just be like, let's just do it. I'm a Capricorn, my friend. So like I like to set goals. And I've also been raised in a patriarchal society where I was told like, you can have, and do anything you set your mind to. And like, you got to play with the boys to make that happen. So this is just a little segue on timing and like allowing yourself to slow down. And I invite you to start by asking yourself, like, what's your relationship to slowing down in your life these days? Specifically when it comes to your journey around motherhood. Do you take time to just breathe and be with yourself? Have you created space in your life for this to happen? Are you putting yourself in spaces where you can attract what it is that you want? Or are you in a like, I'm going to go get it, I'm going to hunt, I'm going to find my man? And if that feels good, then amen. However, there's a part of me that feels that might not be most aligned for you. So, my first challenge to you is to prioritize slowing down with intention. And when I say slowing down, I'm not saying like take no action. Absolutely not. In fact, slowing down will allow you to listen to your inner wisdom. And from that grounded state, you will be able to hear like the answer to the question, what's my next best move? What's that one action I can take today? And you might not even need to ask yourself that question for guidance to come through. But it's when you're just constantly moving and going and rushing that it's difficult to listen to your inner guidance that wants to support you in having everything you want in your life. I will give you an example of this from this week. Monday morning, I woke up feeling a little anxious. There was a lot of like high energy. I was like, what is happening? I work from home and I love working from home. But something inside of me said, go to a coffee shop. I was like, okay. Packed my daughter up to send her to preschool, grabbed my computer, my notebooks, and I was like, I'll go work at the coffee shop close to her school. But once I dropped her off, I was like, I actually don't feel like going to that coffee shop. There's one I haven't been to in quite some time that's a little bit further away. And I was like, that's where I would feel best to work out of today. Sure, it'll take me a little longer to get there, but I actually feel it'll benefit me. And this was all coming through. Like it was like, okay, something's pulling me to that place. And I went to this coffee shop I haven't been in like a year and had a beautiful, productive morning with some magical coincidences that happened there. So your tuning into yourself might come as simply as listening to, where should I go work from today? Where might I want to go on my run? What do I actually want to eat so that I feel nourished and taken care of? But you got to slow down and be willing to listen to the whispers and take action on them. Those are two different things. You might be hearing some whispers, but not willing to say yes because they often won't make sense to your logical mind who's used to having control and being like, it's my way or the highway. So we're looking for a flow between trusting your intuition and allowing you to shift your plans, like letting go of the control while also maintaining what is in your control. More on that coming. From the place of slowing down, I encourage you to reconnect to what you really want. Imagine that I gave you a magic wand. What would you really love? What feels true when it comes to creating the most beautiful expression of a relationship, family, and motherhood for you? What in your bones, what in the depths of your womb feels true for you? And you might need to go out in nature to explore this question, be with it for a while, and be willing to answer honestly. What tends to happen when we reach a certain age or moment in time where we feel like what we want isn't showing up for us is that we then put so much focus on it not happening that we forget to really nurture our true desires and come back to what actually feels expansive, to what actually feels exciting. Because it can be really vulnerable to do that. Because this kind of goal of calling in your partner and having children of your own is challenging that part of you that's like, I got to let go of control here. I have to work on staying rooted in my intention while also being open to being supported by the universe and energies that I can and cannot see in a way that I may not have been open to before. This isn't just I do this 5 times a week and check things off your list. Now, there might be some habits you'll cultivate in this process, but the core intention, staying protecting your true desire, is what's most important. But you have to allow yourself to go there. And I think it's important to revisit it from time to time. It's possible that it evolves. Mine has definitely evolved, even in the last year or so. I'm a mom to an almost 5-year-old, and I had told myself that I was giving myself till 40 to complete my family. Things haven't gone exactly as I thought they would. I've been single since I separated from my daughter's father. And what I knew to be true for myself is I was like, I am not just calling in just anybody. That's not what I'm looking for. And I had to revisit the truth of my vision. And there's a few versions. There isn't just one. My core intention is that I feel like amazing inside and out, and that I continue developing my incredible relationship with my daughter. And I am calling in an incredible partnership, and I know it's going to be amazing. And one of the shifts that happened for me kind of recently was allowing myself to give space to the whether or not I'll have children, because that's where I'm at. I was like, you know what? It may or may not happen. And at this stage, I actually feel okay with that. Would I love more children? Yes, absolutely. And there are some non negotiable criteria for that to happen. And I've decided that what feels good is letting that out of my hands for a period of time and trusting in the universe. Because when I connect to my vision, I'm like, yes, it's there. Yes, I still feel that as a possibility. And I'm also seeing that awakening of a vision that didn't feel good in the past. I was like, oh, maybe it'll be okay if that's not in the cards for me. It's not always easy. I'm not going to lie. There are moments where, I see a newborn, I'm like, oh, mom, baby. And times where it's difficult to be in like family settings where I'm like the token single mom and like seeing like happy couples with their full family as I had hoped mine would look like. I still have my moments where that feels really tender. And I'm also committed to creating the most beautiful life that I can with this incredible journey that I have also been given. So, that being said, is connect to your truth, and you're allowed to have a few versions if you want. Give yourself some space there. In fact, in my book, I'm a little bit more intense of like find your one true north and stick to that. Absolutely. If that feels good, like I know when I really stepped onto my journey leading up to having my daughter, I was very clear that it was like, I'm calling in my partner. I want children. And there was no other option that I was open to. And that what felt very rooted in my truth. Right now, my truth has just expanded where it's like, this feels really good. Um, Calling in a sacred partner and opening us to seeing if having more children is in the cards, while also knowing that there's a high chance that this person might have children. And so I might suddenly go from one to several like stepchildren. And I'm okay with that. All right. I want to address opening yourself up to becoming a stepmom because you mentioned that in your question. And I'll address that by sharing a little bit about my experience. Before I met my daughter's father, I wasn't open to meeting someone who might have kids. That wasn't where I was at in my life. I was adamant about meeting someone with whom we could create this from scratch. But then he came along, and he's someone that I knew from my teenage years. I had a crush on him when I was a teenager, and he had a 5-year-old son. And I was very cautious when we started dating. One, I knew that he had come out of a relationship with the woman he had a family with and had a son with. And I had to shift things in myself to one, give the relationship time to evolve and see, like, is this actually someone I want to be with? And from there, see, well, when you're with someone, you're saying yes to everything they come with, their family, their friends, their quirks and their, weird things. And also their children, if they have some, and their exes too. So he was super like easygoing about that and wanted to introduce me to his son sooner than I was ready. And I'm the one that really chose the pace at which I wanted this to go, not only for myself, but also for his son. I have a belief, and even now as a single mom, I don't want to introduce my daughter to several men. Um, that's just not something that I want for her and for me. So I'm even on my dating journey now, I'm very mindful of that. And so I was already mindful of that entering a new relationship where there was a child involved because I wanted it to be a positive experience for me and for him. And honestly, I think I overcomplicated it. He is such a sweet boy. And, stepmotherhood was such a teacher for me. It really taught me so much about love. He's such an incredible young man. And sorry, I'm feeling like the emotion about that. And we developed a relationship in time. And I remember having a conversation with my then mentor because I was experiencing a certain amount of guilt because I didn't love him the same way I loved my nieces and nephews or my partner at the time. Which in retrospect I'm like, yeah, that's normal, but at the time I felt a certain amount of pressure to love him a certain way. And then I did a lot of reading up about being a stepmom and giving space for the relationships to grow naturally. And the love did grow. And I think both ways. We really had a good connection. And he's such an amazing brother to my daughter. And I also made it a point when I started dating my daughter's father that I would not be a space for bitching about his ex. And I remember literally one day we were walking on the bike path earlier on in our relationship, and he started kind of bad mouthing his ex. And I stopped him and I just took his hand. And I was like, she's the mom of your son. And I don't want to be that person that you talk to about this. Let's be real. There were moments where he might have vented a few things here and there, but I was really a stand for a positive interaction for all of us. And so I needed to really like take a stand in that moment and say, like, I'm not going to cultivate negative feelings around this person. And she's an incredible woman, a great mom. And I know she's been great with our daughter as well. So that was something from the get-go I set up, and I'm really happy I did that. So in the event that step parenting is something that might come your way, I do invite you to open yourself up to that. Like, I'm not going to lie, I don't think most people are like, I can't wait to be a step parent. Like, even now as I'm entering the field, I think there might be some nerves for me and men like dating if we both have kids, because we are well aware that coming into the dating game as single parents, we're not just dating for ourselves. Like, there's other people involved. And I mean, some people may not think about this. I know I do. I'm like, and I know that in like being attracted to someone, I'm like, okay, once we explore children and our children, is like, might there be a fit there? Because if there's not, like, I'm sorry, like, we might love each other, but I don't want my life to be more complicated than it has to be. And that's just a choice. And like, things might change with time. We'll see how things unfold, but it's definitely a gift and it's really beautiful. Like, I look at it now, I thought I'd have more children at this point. I've said this already, but Alicia has a brother. And that is so meaningful to me because I grew up with siblings and I'm so grateful that I did. And so she has very different experiences, and I've had to shift my view of what family means because family is very different. Her like experience of family is very different than the one that I had. And so there was part of the work in being open to step motherhood was also being willing to change my like view of what it meant to have a family, what it meant to be a mom. And hence why I was able to also see the different expressions that you can have as a mom. Because the way I never tried to replace my stepson's mom. Like, I'm like, I'm not your mom. However, I will play a certain role. I'm your bonus mama. And I wanted him to know that, like, I'll be there for you. If he ever calls me at any point in his life and needs me, I'll be there. He's my daughter's stepson. No, he's my daughter's stepbrother. And that's something for me, that is important because I'm like, he played an important part in my life and he's an important part of my daughter's life and she's important to me. And, I just wanted to continue cultivating that positive energy. Now it's no longer mine to decide how that looks because of our agreement. However, I still have love there and will always be there for him if he needs me. So yeah, so it's okay if you're not open to it. Like there's no shame in that, honestly. I get it. I get why it can be challenging to consider the possibility of becoming a stepmom. And if you meet a really great person, it might bring you so much more than you could have anticipated. It's really beautiful to have the ability to see someone as a father. I would say, don't put your rose-colored glasses on. You might. Um, I'm not gonna lie. This is the thing. I think when I got into my relationship, I wasn't fully open to being a stepmom, and so it kind of worked for me that my daughter's father and his ex didn't have like a 50-50 agreement. We had his son every other weekend, and then my ex would travel months out of the year for work. So there was a part of me that was like, that's fine with me because we have our life and then we have his son like every other week. It wasn't like a 50-50 split. I'm not super proud of saying that out loud, but that was it. Like it worked. And then I look back and I'm like, oh man, but why didn't they have a 50-50 agreement? And, now like when I made my agreement with my daughter's father and I was like, right, like he's gone a lot. That's not a lot of time with your kids. But there's reasons beyond, I'm not judging it. And there were valid reasons. But I know on my end, I was like, this works for me, but now that's not how it's going to work. So just putting that out there, just be mindful, I guess, be open. When the pandemic hit, like I was suddenly like I had a newborn and an 8-year-old full time because my daughter's father was working and my stepson's mom worked in childcare, so she was also working to support healthcare workers who needed to have their kids in daycare. And so I was the one who was like 24/7 with both kids, and that was like an expansive experience in many regards. It challenged me in many ways to like soften in that relationship while also like hold certain boundaries and then speak up in the relationship when I needed more support. So every situation will be different, but children are so magical. And I think it's important for you to give yourself space to honor where you're at without shaming yourself. And then if something really beautiful is there, give yourself the time you need to explore it. I think things can happen really quickly, but they don't need to feel rushed. There is a difference. Like you can literally meet someone today and 3 months from now be married and be pregnant. Like that's totally possible. A coach that I highly respect, he proposed to his now wife 10 days after meeting her, and they've been married for over a decade with 2 beautiful kids. So things can happen, but I don't think there was any feeling of rushing. It was just alignment and flow. And that can happen in a relationship as well. And I feel when you're at a different stage on your journey, like there's just a different purpose and evolution. You can take 5 years if you want. You can have kids in your 40s. Like that happens all the time. That's where you get to connect to like your own divine time and what feels aligned for you, while also being responsible for what that might mean. I'm 40 now, and like I said, and I am open to having more children, and I'm also still very clear that if it doesn't happen naturally, that I'm not open to forcing it or like doing IVF or freezing my eggs. That's just a door that I didn't necessarily want to go through, and that doesn't take away from someone else who felt that that was the right journey for them. I think everyone needs to do what feels right for them, and that is what has felt right for me and continues to. And I take responsibility for whatever result that leads to. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I think step parenting has a lot of perks, and it's a beautiful, like heart opening experience, and you got to trust what feels right for you. So just give yourself space to really inquire what you would love if anything were possible, and give yourself permission to create different versions. I kind of see this as being the architect of your life. You imagine you're designing your dream home or dream condo. You might go through different versions of sketches before deciding which one you're really going to build. And you might make some changes as you start the build. And so when it comes to being the architect of your life and of your journey to becoming a mom and creating the family and relationship that you dream of, You're allowed to have a few versions as long as that feels good for you. If it feels like your energy is too scattered, then let it go. Like I one thing I will say is that even though I have open visions right now, I am super intentional about who I want to be for my next partner and how I want to address this conversation. Like there's just I'm not like wavering from my commitment to creating sacred partnership and family. Um, but I am open to whether or not having children is fully in the cards. Like I will not be pushing or forcing that because it's something I really want to co-create with my next partner, and see what's best for us based on our lives. So I just want to say that doesn't mean that you're like, oh well, I'm gonna live like my totally single life and just go sleep around, when like the truth is that you really want a monogamous relationship with a man who really values family and would love to be a parent. Like those are two things that are two extremes. You can have multiple visions that I believe, have a through line. I think that's what I'm mostly getting to here is that you have to be congruent with your intention. Otherwise you're going to be scattered. So the reason why in my book and in the course, I really encourage you to focus on one core vision is for you to channel your energy more intensely or more intentionally rather. And for you to also be a stand to protect that cocoon and be a yes to what lights you up and also say no thank you to what doesn't. Because you're going to have to say no a lot more than you say yes. But you will have to say yes to yourself and recognize that your desire to becoming a mom is so goddamn beautiful. So many women who I work with who are called to being moms often feel lesser than because they're like, I should be focusing on my career or I should be, you know, having other goals that are more like societally acceptable when in reality like that desire to become a mom and repopulate our world or at least tap into that motherly essence is so beautiful. It's such a gift. It really is. I was with a client yesterday who was saying, I'm very clear. I don't want to be a stay at home mom. I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and have had one or two children and like have accomplished nothing. And I was like, wait a second. What? That is the reason why a lot of women are feeling stuck on their journey to becoming moms, because there's this association that if you have children and that's all you do for a period of time, that you've been unproductive, that you're unsuccessful, that you're not worthy, that you're invaluable. Fuck that. Excuse my language, but by the way, seal in French is fuck. I'm from Quebec, so we're just gonna say seal, okay? But this is probably something that a lot of women, I think every woman needs to shift in herself and reclaim the beauty and power of being a woman and of being a mother, whether or not you have children, by the way. Whether or not you have children, whether or not you have a womb, revaluing motherhood is so important. So you need to start seeing how valuable that desire is, how divinely guided it is, how natural it is. And by the way, for women who don't want to become mothers, that's totally fine. They will express their motherly essence in a very different way. Maybe through the work they do in the world, the art they create, the nieces and nephews that they aunt, I don't know what's the right way to say it. There are many different ways to express your motherly essence. However, it's so important that we take a stand as women to reclaim the value of motherhood. And that starts with reconnecting to our true nature, to our great mother, Mother Earth, to our own mother, and to our inner mother, and how we are called to mother in this world. You have to realize that this is so important. And this part of your life where you're called to motherhood, but you're not exactly sure how you're going to get there, that is a transformative process. And one of your priorities will be to make this a priority and realize that making space in your life to look at these questions, to make sacred space for answering your call to motherhood is valuable. And I'm not even going to equate it to any of your other goals because I don't see anything that's more valuable than that. All your other goals might stem from that, especially if this is something that you're really feeling at your core. Now, once you've connected to what you really want, the truth of your desire, from a grounded place, from a place of having slowed down and, made yourself feel good, you don't want to create this desire from a place of scarcity. Okay. So do whatever you got to do to feel good, then create that. Then you want to start practicing a positive expectation of that happening. You want to be willing to believe that like the universe is on your side. And that if you're being called to a certain dream or desire, that the universe wants to be a yes to that. Because one of the things that I've done myself and still do sometimes, I'll be like, this is what I want. But then I find all the reasons why I'm not worthy of it, not ready for it, not good enough for it. Gosh, like that, I've been working on this for a long time. Okay. There are areas in my life where it's easier to move past that, but other times where it's like, wow, I really need to catch myself. And instead realize that, wait, like if this is coming through, there's a reason for it. And so I need to start practicing the positive expectation of that happening in my life. And when I do that, it tends to help me show up differently. It's like if you knew without a shadow of a doubt that you were going to meet your man today, how would you show up? How would you show up in your life? I actually had this reminder the other day where I was out in public, like fully in like incognito mode, dressed in black, head like baseball cap. I didn't really want to talk to anyone. Um, and then I saw this cute guy, and I was like, okay, I next time want to be a little more ready. I want to feel like, hey, what's up? Because I didn't feel like that in that moment, and it was a reminder of like, be ready because I'm feeling that readiness right now. Say it's spring after a long winter. I don't know what it is. I just know that I feel ready. And part of that is also tapping into this energy where I want to be ready whether I'm meeting this person on a trail in the woods or like at the grocery store tomorrow morning. So that might be something for you to explore is like if I knew without a shadow of a doubt that the right person for me was on his way, how would I show up in the world? And that's really important. How would you show up? We sometimes focus so much, particularly, I know we're kind of weaving relationship stuff with motherhood stuff, but they often go hand in hand, particularly since you specifically mentioned that you want to meet somebody. But I really invite you to think about who do you want to be for this person? Who do you want to be for this person? And if you have a tendency to be like, I need to be perfect and I need to have all of my shit figured out, then you might need to relax on that because chances are the person who is meant for you is going to love your beautiful imperfections and want to grow with you. Be like ready enough. You have to be like, I've got all my stuff figured out because that will probably make it very difficult for someone else to enter your life because everyone's got some shit. And partners can come together and support one another in what we're working through. At least that's my belief. That's what I tell myself because I'm far from perfect. And I've got some things that I know I've got a lot of strengths on, and then other things that I'm like, whew, okay, that will be vulnerable to open up about that, but that's where I'm at. And I want to be ready where I'm at. With this, we got to face your fear head on. If you've read Aspiring Mama, or if you haven't in a while, and you got to go back to the Facing Your Fear chapter. Because one of the things that can sometimes halt us is all these like what ifs, what if being a biological mom isn't in the cards for me? Okay, what if? Let's look at it. Let's not stop at that question. Let's actually go there. What will you create with your life if becoming a biological mom isn't in the cards for you? I think it's so empowering to face fear head on and be like, all right, fear, bring it, bitch. Let's see what you got for me. Because then you get to take your power back instead of letting this this question that it creates this anxiety and pressure inside of you to be like, wait, let's shift this. Like, okay, I hear you. I hear what you just showed, like presented in my space. Let's look at that. Maybe immediately you're like, well, that ain't happening. And that might be the energy you're coming into with, and that's great. Or there might be a part of you like, okay, if that's not in the cards for me, what cards will I create? What lemons will I squeeze if if the world gives me different lemons than I thought I was going to work with? And I know from doing that for myself was definitely empowering. And it still is to this day because I knew there were several options, but there came a time on my journey where I felt the need to really face these questions head on. And one of them was, well, what if I can't have children of my own? What am I willing to open myself up to? What will I create with my life? And I looked at these different opportunities. I looked at not having children at all. What would happen if I just continued living a single life? And I was like, hmm, I'm sure I could go find an Italian lover for a summer somewhere and have some fun. Um, or maybe I'll just adopt more dogs. I love my dog. He's like, I'm a dog mom, a very proud one. So I started seeing that I'm like, okay, I would be heartbroken. Don't get me wrong. There was a period of time I was like, well, that will be one of the hardest things for me. And there will be a time where I'm like, okay, I got to live my life in honor of the children that I hope to bring in onto the planet. And in honor of them, I'm going to live my best life. Because ultimately, before having my daughter, I wished for my children to love their life. And that inspired me to start living a life that I loved. Because I'm like, if I want that for my kids, if I want my kids to be happy, if I want my kids to live a life they love, then I need to start doing that myself. And so my daughter has been a huge source of inspiration, and really connecting to my desire to have children has been a huge source of inspiration because I told myself that I would then have stories to tell them about how I decided to live my life, because I hope that I can model that at the essence of like living a life you love for my children. Not wanting them to, I don't want to model a life that I want them to replicate. Absolutely not. I want them to live a life that is a reflection of their soul and of their truth and of their joy and of being the source of their joy, not waiting for joy to find them, but also being a creator of joy in their lives. So that's one thing. Start at like facing your fear head on. And you might ask yourself, what scares you about that? What are you making it mean if you don't become a biological mom? Chances are there's probably this feeling of like, well, I won't be good and like I won't be enough of a woman, or I'll have failed to a certain degree. This is something that tends to come up in conversations I have with aspiring moms, is feeling like they won't have fulfilled like an enoughness version of being a woman. And that's often through the lexicon of our culture that has been ingrained in us. And part of the work and the invitation might be like, well, what if that isn't true? How can I be fully myself, even if this aspect of my life isn't there? I know it's easier said than done. These are practices, okay, that I'm inviting you to do. I'm not insinuating that you do this one time and you're like, oh, okay, I feel great, no problem. These are things you can come back to as often as needed, okay? The same way, like, you don't just take a shower once a week, or maybe if you're camping. But, you come back to this practice of cleansing yourself. You may need to come back to the practice of connecting to the mother you want to be over and over again. And when fear comes up, just be like, okay, noticed. Like, what if I don't meet my person this year or in the next 3 years or 5 years? How do I feel about that? What kind of life will I create? Okay. Then come back to your desire. Just like go to the place when you lean into your fear, go far enough into it that you reach a point where you're like, I'm going to be okay. And I encourage you to like set an intention, a commitment to create the most beautiful life you're capable of, no matter what life throws at you or doesn't throw at you. There will be dark times. That is inevitable. Yesterday we had a big storm here, and it was like storming like it did when I lived in Tofino. And then when the rain cleared, the sky was so incredible. And as I was taking my recycling out to bring it to the side of the street, I was like, wow, that's the thing. Like after a storm, there's always so much magic and beauty. So I just want to remind you that even if there are dark times on your journey, there's always a rainbow and sunshine on the other side of it. I know that for sure. I sometimes forget it when I'm in a dark period, but I know for sure that the work we do in the dark really fuels our inner fire and our light in the world. So once you face your fear, and you don't have to do this alone, by the way, it's really great when you have a guide by your side. Hello, I'm here. And if I'm not your guide, find someone who can support you when you're in the trenches having a hard time of seeing the beauty on the other side of your fear when you move your way through it. Once you've done that, come back to your core desire. You might face your fear and realize, you know what? I'll be good. Now, what do I most want? What am I committed to creating? Come back to that center. And you may need to pull yourself back every minute, every hour, every day because you're feeling pulled in different directions. And this is why it's so important for you to protect your energy. Do whatever you must to protect this sacred cocoon that you're in. Unfollow accounts that make you feel disconnected from your truth, even if it's for a little while. Stop watching movies that make you feel bad about being single. Stop watching TV shows that are out of alignment with your core values. Stop hanging out with people you don't feel great around. People won't like it. I don't care. You have to care more about what is brewing inside of you and wanting to come through you than what other people think. So make sure that you're protecting your energy as you would a newborn. You know, a lot of people don't share that they're pregnant until they've reached a certain amount of weeks in their pregnancy. When I found out I was pregnant, I told my inner circle because I only told people that would, reinforce the anchoring of that embryo in my uterus. Okay. But this is the same when it comes to dreams, is like only tell those who will fuel it and support it, particularly when it's really vulnerable and fragile. Everyone else can wait or just never get the news. Okay. So make sure you're really intentional about who you're speaking to about this. And those who will want to chime in and be like, what's happening in your love life? And like, when are you having kids? Most of the time, people are asking these questions because they don't know what else to ask. And it's well intentioned. And sometimes you also need to put people in their place and be like, you know what? This is none of your business. And it's not a conversation I want to be having right now. Like, you might legit have to to say that. I definitely have been like, why are you asking me this? This is not none of your business. We are coming to the top of the mountain in our conversation here. And this is key. And I alluded to it earlier, but you don't have to make it all happen yourself. That's a very masculine way of being and of thinking. And of course, you feel pressure if that's the conversation you're having. And that's might be something that's preventing you from being open because you're already feeding this paradigm that you're going to have to do it all yourself, which might make you afraid of being a mom because you're seeing all these burnt out moms who are doing it all by themselves, even if they're in a partnership. Let that land for a minute. I see this time and time again. Women are subconsciously afraid of becoming mothers, not because they're afraid of having babies, but they're afraid of everything they're going to have to be and do, or supposedly be and do, when they become a mom. I know I still experience this because I had an experience in becoming a mom where I was solo parenting for months at a time during a global pandemic. And there is a little wounding around that still. I've healed it, the scar is there, but it's still a sensitive thing when I think about, whoa, there were months on end where I was parenting a newborn, even through COVID, like literally when I had COVID, taking care of my newborn alone. I have learned so much from that. I still am learning so much. But I realized that, being an independent woman has served me, but it did not serve me well in motherhood because you can't do it alone. Like you can. Yeah, you can. But you can't at the same time. Like you can be a solo mom, you can be a single mom. I'm a single mom. But you also have to delegate. You have to allow others to support you. Whether that's allowing the teenage boy packing your groceries to carry them to your car, or calling the handyman to fix your fence, or allowing your friend to bring you food, or hiring a service where you receive food once or twice a week, whatever way help you need. Like you will need to let go this desire of wanting to do it all at once. You will burn out very quickly. You will need to reshift your priorities and really simplify them. And that starts now. That thing that in you that's like, I got to make it all happen. I got to hold it all down. Like that's a lot. And I have moments where I'm like, it's a lot. And I have to question, like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I'm trying to prove something? Do I actually have the capacity for this right now? I'm about to host my daughter's 5th birthday party. And I intentionally decided that I'm not making goodie bags for her friends. It's like, one, I don't know why we do this. Because honestly, all these little toys are way too much to manage, in my opinion. Okay. But I also was like, I'm not doing it because I'm one human being and I'm running a business, trying to my best to. And it actually doesn't feel good for me to do that. If it did, hell yeah, I would do it. There are aspects like I'm down to make her birthday cake and prepare good food for my friends. Like I like doing that. But like going and buying all these little goodies, that I don't love that. So I know that I would be doing it because I feel like I should, but it's not coming from like this authentic, like I would love to. If I had an assistant and a cleaning lady and a personal chef, I'd be like, girl, go buy me the best goodie bags you can find. Okay. Cook me this, mop my floors every day after my dog brings in all the sand from our walks. That is not my current reality, and I'm okay with that. And I need to be really mindful of my incredible power and also be responsible for my energy and my capacity. I know I'm super powerful. And I also know that when I put too much on my plate, I crash and burn pretty easily. So notice what your relationship is with your feminine qualities of being open, of creating from inside and calling in to your space what you want. What's your relationship with allowing others to do things for you? Saying yes to support. How does that feel? Part of your work on your journey to becoming a mom and also calling in the man you desire is to connect to your feminine magnetism. I don't know what other word I was going to say. And create the space for that to happen. And I want to give you a little analogy here, particularly since I'm recording this in spring. It's like tending to your soil. If you garden, and even if you don't, you'll get this. We're at a place in our lives, or in seasonally here, where before planting new seeds, we need to do a little cleanup. We need to make sure the ground is ready to be planted inside. We need to create fertile ground. This is one of the core pillars of my matriarch philosophy, creating fertile ground. So you can start there in your life and see what do I need to clean out in my life? Maybe it's looking at your diet, your thoughts. There might be a little cleanup there. People, habits, places you hang out, your social media feed. What do I need to clean up to make sure I'm creating a really fertile space in my life for a beautiful relationship and for motherhood and family? Really commit to that. You know how in cities they make these like garden boxes? You don't have to create fertile ground in every area of your life right now. Start with like this one box, which is relationship, family, and motherhood. Make sure that you're inside of that because the fertile ground you need to nurture most is yourself. One of my mantras is like, if it doesn't support my fertility, I'm not doing it. I don't remember who I was inspired by to take this on, but I really love that mantra. Like, how many things in my life have I done that went fully against my fertility? Whether that was excessive drinking or eating too much sugar or stressing over things I probably shouldn't, or doing things like on the day before or first day of my period, knowing that's when I need the most rest. So that might be one way that you create fertile ground. Connect to your cycle, take care of yourself. And from that place, you start planting new seeds and really intentional ones. If you want roses, don't go planting like daffodils. Like that, you're not going to get roses from that. So be really intentional about the seeds you're planting. And again, this is a beautiful portal we're creating here right now for you to reconnect to the truth of your desire and plant that seed. And once it's planted, you got to give it space. Let it have some water, some sunshine, maybe speak to it sometimes, but you can't constantly be like playing with the seed. It's not going to have room to like take root and then to grow. So that's where like frantic energy, stressed out energy, and like constantly obsessing about whether or not you're going to become a mom is probably going to be destructive. Be intentional about your desire. Make sure you hydrate and get some sunshine and relax on rainy days and trust that the seed you planted is starting to take root and that eventually, in its own divine time, it will sprout through the earth and grow and grow and blossom. So take what resonates for you in that, but that can literally be a mini plan for you. Create fertile ground, plant new seeds, and give them space. And be so kind and loving on the journey. Patience is not easy, but it is necessary. I'm not much of a gardener in terms of plants, but I am in terms of projects and goals and dreams. And I know that there's a big part of my work is to make room there's rest and space. And that's often one of the missing pieces in women's lives and men's lives as well too. In a culture that's constantly about doing, 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 we also need to give ourselves space to just be, to rest, to play. So make sure there's room for that in your life. Now, last thing I want to share with you is that you don't have to do this alone. Again, I've mentioned this earlier, but I encourage you to get support. It's incredible what happens when someone else is holding you for your dreams and your vision. Obviously, I'm a coach. I have a bias, but I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't fully believe in it. And because this is such a personal and often very vulnerable topic, often people will isolate because they might feel afraid of sharing it with others. And that's okay. There's some people that aren't capable of holding your desires. That's why you hire someone who is. And so a few ways you can get support from me. And if I'm not your girl, find someone else. I'm not the only one in this space. I am one, like I am aware that the work I do specifically around aspiring motherhood isn't just focused on fertility and getting pregnant. It's really a holistic lifestyle approach so that you're aligning to your motherly essence. And yes, creating fertile ground for the kind of motherly expression you desire, especially if that includes having children. So I do address fertility and conscious pregnancy in the conversation. However, I've had different experiences where someone didn't have kids and coached her through closing that chapter lovingly and finding peace within herself for not having had children. In her mid 40s, she's like, wow, like such a weight was lifted off her shoulders. Cause she's like, we didn't want kids, but I always felt inadequate to a certain degree. And like that, it was so powerful. It healed, over a decade worth of shame in one conversation. So I'm just saying, like, find your person, and you might need multiple people. You might need a naturopathic doctor to support you in what you might need to protect your fertility. You might need a therapist to work through some deeper underlying issues you might have with your mom. Okay. Um, a coach like me. There's many different people that can be part of your team. Just make sure you have a team. Now, you can also start, if you want to just get started with the work that I do, the Aspiring Mama book. Great place to start. I really created this book so that it could follow you on your journey to and through motherhood. It's available in paperback as well as a Kindle download. I'll leave all the links below here. You can enroll in the Aspiring Mama course. I created the Aspiring Mama course to be a companion to the book, but really for you to have me in your back pocket, quite literally. I build this course on the platform Kajabi. I'll also link a link in the event that you're interested in building a course, because Kajabi is awesome. But that course was really designed as if you were in my living room and I was guiding you on your journey to becoming the mom you want to be. And so it's a super intimate experience because I really created it from the heart. And there is so much practical wisdom in that course. There are several modules, from awakening the mother within, creating your roadmap to becoming the mom you want to be, aligning your life, literally looking at how can you align your life in the key areas: your finances, your career, your relationships, your family, your pleasure, your home and environment. So I really go down and seeing what are some specific actions you can take to make sure you're staying, in your lane. And then there's also the Sovereign Mama module, which helps you reconnect to your deeper wisdom. And I share like insights that I've gained since becoming a mom and that I believe are so important for women to learn, like now, yesterday, in childhood. So I know that those will be super valuable. And there's tons of resources, guided visualizations, meditations. It is so valuable. And you can go through the entire course in a condensed amount of time if that's what you wish, or really take it piece by piece and come back to what calls you, so that you don't feel alone and that you feel supported really in a practical way to stay on your path. And in addition, you can also combine that with working with me one-on-one, because you will have unique needs and questions and challenges and roadblocks that can sometimes be hard, and not sometimes, pretty much all the time difficult to see on your own. And so working with me one-on-one is also an option to support you on your journey. Again, all of this will be linked in the show notes and underneath this episode. So let's just do a quick recap. And before we do, let's take a deep breath in. And if you've listened to the episode this far, I want to say thank you and really acknowledge you. That means you are so on your journey already. Okay. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're listening or watching to this episode, know that we have just thrown so much fertilizer in that soil where you want to plant seeds of your truest desire to becoming the mom you want to be. So give yourself some space after today to just percolate what's come through. You might want to answer some of the prompts that I mentioned, but you don't have to do them all at once. Give yourself like space. Go at your own pace. No need to rush. And I would absolutely love to hear what your key takeaway is from the episode. So we looked at 1, validating how you're feeling. It's okay. You can't start anywhere else than where you are. Chances are, after listening to this, you feel probably a little different than you did at the beginning of the episode. But get into the practice of validating and honoring how you feel instead of trying to ignore it. It's actually probably the fastest way for you to move through those feelings and more into an empowered state. Reconnect to your breath. Slow down. Quite literally, take deep breaths and take time to slow down time, even if it's for 1 minute in your day. And then from that place, reconnect to what you really want. Connect to the truth of what you desire and cultivate the expectation that it is happening. Use this portal of the Mother's Day energy to lovingly connect to what you most want and align your mind, heart, and womb to that. Use your friends' successes in motherhood to fuel your desire. Don't push it away. If it's too much right now, then, again, protect your cocoon. But let's tap into this vibrant energy of motherhood that's in the air right now to support you on your journey. Connect to your feminine wisdom. You don't have to do it alone. You really don't. Protect your sacred space, protect this space, and make it a priority. Your desire to becoming a mom is so beautiful. And there are incredible men out there who are also on their journey to fatherhood, who are eager to meet you and create a family with you. Those men exist. They really do. So make sure that in cultivating your desire, you also honor it. It's a beautiful thing. And lastly, you don't have to do this alone. Don't. Find your person, get your copy of Aspiring Mama, enroll in the Aspiring Mama course, connect with me so that we can explore working together one-on-one. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you so much love and light on your journey to and through motherhood, and I'll see you next time.